We begin today the Gemara on Daf Mem Tes Amud Beis at the Mishnah towards the bottom of the Yomud. This Mishnah continues the halachas of a person that was Mekadesh Isha with a condition, and it turns out that it's not like the condition he made. Zog Teilige Mishnah al Menas Shani Kayin. A person is Mekadesh a woman on condition that he's a Kayin. V'nimtza Levi. Turns out that he's a Levi. Or Levi v'nimtza Kayin. He says he's a Levi and it turns out he's a Kayin. Nasin, he says he's a Nasin, which is a psol of Yichus, but it's a psol which is on a lower level. They come from the nation of the Nesinim, the Umagayer, and they were also to marry into Klal Yisrael. But then v'nimtza Mamzer. Turns out that he is a much worse problem in his Yichus, that he's a Mamzer. Or in the reverse, he said he was a Mamzer, v'nimtza Nasin. Turns out it's not as bad, he's only a Nasin. Benir, he says he's a person living in a city, v'nimtza ben krach, and it turns out that he lives in a much bigger city, in a real large city, where they have all the marketplaces, and it's expensive there, and there's a lot of people there, and it's not so easy to live in a large city like this. Or ben krach, he says he lives in this very large city, v'nimtza benir, and it turns out that it's not as bad, he's only living in a city, smaller city. Amanas shebiti, shebesi, that is, karev lemerchatz, the condition that the house that I live in is close to the bathhouse, v'nimtza rochik, turns out to be far, rochik, v'nimtza karev, or the opposite, it turns out to be better than what he said. Almanas sheyesh le basay shivcha migudeles, on condition that he has a daughter or an older maid that would then be able to serve and help his wife now, ve'enloi, and it turns out he doesn't have. Or almanas she'enloi, he says that he doesn't have anyone that would be able to help, and ve'yeshloi, it turns out that he does have. It's better than what he said. Almanas she'enloi banim, on condition that he has no sons, ve'yeshloi, and it turns out he does have, so it makes it more difficult that now his wife has to take care of them. Or almanas she'yeshloi ve'enloi, or on condition that he says that he does have, and it turns out that he does not have. So in all these cases, she will not be mukadeshes. Now, Bekulam, the Mishnah says, Afa pisha omra, even if the woman comes and says, Bilibi hoya lehiskadish loy, that in my heart I was thinking that I'll be married to him, whether this condition is fulfilled or not, and even though now the condition is not fulfilled, I want to be married anyways. Afa pikain eina mukadeshes. Nevertheless, she's not. The Kidushin doesn't take effect. You made a clear condition, and she had this in her heart, and it doesn't matter. All the halachas that we said here regarding tonight, that the husband said about himself, and it's not true, and we also had in the earlier mission on Daf Mem Ches, it'll be similar if it's he shehet osai. If she made a condition and the Kidushin, and she said that there's something that she's bringing, or that she has, or that she is, and it turns out not to be so, since it's a Kidushin with this condition, she will not be mukadeshes. So the Gemara here is going to focus on the detail that it said in the Mishnah that even though she says hoya belibi hoya liskadish loy, it doesn't matter. And this is the concept that's called dvarim shebelev. When a person says he has something in his heart and he didn't spell it out verbally, does that matter? So here our Mishnah says it doesn't matter. So the Gemara begins with a halacha regarding a story. Ahu gavre, there was an individual. The Zavin lenichse, he sold his properties adaita lemesak la'eretz Yisrael. And his thinking was that he's only doing this because he's moving. He's going up to Eretz Yisrael. And what happened? In the end, something out of his control and oinus took place, and he could not go. But Ubeidne, the Zavin, at the time when he sold the property, loy omar v'loy midi. He didn't say clearly that I'm selling this property only because I want to go to Eretz Yisrael. If he would have spelled it out very clearly, bedibur, so then the whole sale is only because, like he said himself, that he's only going to Eretz Yisrael. But otherwise, the sale does not take effect. But now, he didn't say anything. He says, I'm selling you the property. Well, now that he didn't go to Eretz Yisrael, he wants to back out of the sale. Yeah.
If he would say,
if he would say clearly, so then he could have charata, yeah. Omar Rave, so Rave said, in this case, he didn't say anything, have dvarim shebelev. So these are words that are remained in his heart. Dvarim shebelev, what remains in a person's heart, einam dvarim. Doesn't have any relevance, any significance, and therefore there's no the sale stays in effect. There's nothing he can do about it. That's the halacha that Rava paskent. Now the Gemara will discuss what's the source of this halacha of dvarim shebelev einam dvarim, and the Gemara is going to try to bring a few different sources, and also from our Mishnah. And the point here in this whole sugi is to see if it's a source to say that dvarim shebelev einam dvarim in such a kind of case like this. where the person is selling and he didn't say what he's selling, why he's selling. Sagt die Gemara, what is Rava's source for this to apply here the klal of dvarim shebelev enim dvarim? If you would say mehad d'tanan from the following Mishnah, or some say it's supposed to say the Tanya. It's not really a Mishnah. This is a Braise. The Braise says Yakriv Oisai. Pasuk says regarding a carbon that he should bring the carbon, and this is an extra pasuk. It already says before Zacha Tomim Yakrivenu. What do you learn out from this? Malamid Shekaifin Oisai. That you force a person that has to fulfill an obligation, a neder, that he has to bring a carbon, he's forced. So now, Yochel Bal Karchai, then the Braisa says, I would think that he brings his carbon even against his will. Talmud Loima, but not, the pasuk also says there, Liritzainai, that it has to be brought with his will. So what does this mean? HaKeitzad, Kaif and Isai, we force him, Ad Sheyomer Reitzani. Until he's going to say, yes, I want. He's going to say verbally that he wants to bring the carbon, and that's enough. That's l'ritzainai. Now, says the Gemara, V'amai, why would this be sufficient? If he says with his mouth that he wants to bring the carbon, but we know that in his heart he's not interested in bringing this carbon. So what value does the words that he say have if in his heart he's thinking different? Don't you think that we see from here because what he has in his heart doesn't matter, it's worthless, and since B'dibur he says he wants to bring the carbon, that's l'ritzainai. We go by what he's saying verbally. Says the Gemara, but there's no, you can't bring any raya from here, because V'dilme shani hasam, in that case, when a person is being forced to bring a carbon, and he says with his mouth that he wants to bring the carbon, so that's different. The anan sahadi, because we are like witnesses. We know this is our fact. The nichalei bekapara, that he's really interested in the kapara, and the fact that he's said before that he doesn't want the kapara, so that's not his true will. We know that his true will is that he does want the kapara, and when he says so b'dibur roitzani, that is his true will. Says the Gemara, Elo miseifa. I'll bring you a raya that dvarim shebelev are not dvarim from what it says in the seif of that brayse. The same halacha applies also b'gitei noshim v'shechrurei avodim. When you're giving a get for a isha or a shtar shechrur to free a slave, so there are certain cases where kaifin oisai, where we force the husband or the master to give a get or to free. Ad sheyomer reitzani. We force him until he's going to say reitzani, that he's ready to give the get. By the get as well, the halacha is that he has to give the get with his ratzon. So over here we force him, and as long as he says the words reitzani, she's divorced. So again the question is, but v'amai, how is saying it work? But in his heart he's not interested in giving the get. So if he says it b'dibur, what does it do? Elalav, shouldn't we say the reason is mishum damrinon dvarim shebelev enim dvarim? Because what's in his heart is nothing, doesn't matter. Says the Gemara, again, the same point, there's no raya from here. Just like by a carbon, he wants the kapare, v'dilme, shani hasam, by the get, it's different, mishum the mitzvah l'shmoy, divrei chachamim. Because over there as well, we're only forcing him in a case where al pitayre, the chachamim were misakin, that he has to give a get, and therefore they're forcing him to be mekayim what the chachamim want, and he definitely wants to be mekayim the words of the chachamim, the bezdin that's forcing him to be megarish l'sisha. So this Gemara here, the Rambam paskins and brings this Gemara in the end of Perek Beis of Hilchas Kidushin. So this is a very famous Rambam. The Rambam brings this concept that the maskana here of the Gemara and is very ma'arich on this Indian. And this is a Rambam that the Rebbe quoted hundreds, if not thousands, of times. The Rambam there explains ba'arichis that every single yid, regardless of what he says, but the truth is that the real ratzon of a yid is roitzel lehisrachik min ha'averis l'kayim kol ha'mitzvos. That's the true will of a yid. And the fact that he's saying different, that's not him. Yitzray takfai. That's something external that overcame him. It's not the true will of a yid. This is the source in halacha, where you see this idea that the neshama of a yid cannot separate from Hashem and always wants to do what the Eibishter wants. And that's why over here, it's not an issue of dvarim shebelev. Now that is the true dvarim shebelev. He wants to be mekayim the mitzvah, whether by the get, whether by the carbon. So this is no raya b'chlal to the subject of dvarim shebelev. So Gemara Vaytel and Rabbi Yosef. So Rabbi Yosef says, no, it's not a raya. It's not a raya. It's not dvarim shebelev. When he says reitzani, those words reitzani is what's taki in his heart as well. It would be a raya if we would say that in his heart what he's thinking is opposite of what he's saying. But no, the true will of a yid is to bring the carbon, to give the get, like Chachamim want. So what he's saying b'dibur and what he's thinking in his heart is the same thing. Elam Rav Yosef, so Rav Yosef says mehocha. I'll bring you a raya from the following Mishnah, which is here later in this Perek. Hamakadosh Seisha, on the beginning of the next Perek. It's not the template over here. Hamakadosh Seisha. Person is Mekadesh a woman, and then Va'amar he says Kasavara Yisi, he didn't make any conditions with her, but now he comes and says, I thought she Kayanes, that she was a Kehanes, that's why I agreed to this Kidushin, but Varei Leviah, turns out she's Leviah, or Leviah, I thought she's a Levi, and Venum says Kayanes, turns out that she's a Kayanes, Aniya, I thought that she's poor, Varei Ashira, she turns out to be rich, Ashira, I thought she's rich, Varei Aniya, and she's poor. That's what he's saying, that's what he was thinking. He never said anything about this. Says the Gemara Mishnah there, Mikudeshes. She is going to be Mikudeshes. Mipnei shaloi hit asay. She didn't do anything to make a condition, and then it turns out not like what she said. She didn't say anything like this. He was Mekadesh Stam without any condition, so he can't come and say that this is what I was thinking it is. Asks the Gemara, but v'amai, why can't he come and say that this is what he was thinking in his heart? Haka'amar kasavara yisi. But he's coming and he's saying that I thought that. That's what he was thinking in his heart. He thought that she's a kehanes. He thought that she's rich, or so on. The details the Mishnah says there. So shouldn't we consider what he's telling us, what he was thinking in his heart? So the Rishonim over here discuss how would we believe what he's saying that he had in his heart. Maybe the reason, maybe we could say dvarim shebelev are dvarim. It's significant, but over here, how can we believe him when he's coming and telling this to us? Maybe he just wants to back out of the marriage. The answer is the Gemara is asking at least we should be chayshish for this. We should be machmer. That maybe she's not Mukadeshes. Says the Gemara, isn't the reason, here you see that we don't consider what he says, he thought in his heart at all, because it's words in his heart. Abaye answered, there's no raya from there. Maybe over there, that Mishnah is saying that this is all just a stringency, just l'chumra. In other words, maybe really we could say that dvarim shebelev are dvarim. But what it's saying over there is, when the Mishnah there said that she is Mukadeshes, we're being machmer to say that she's Mukadeshes. We taka also will be machmer to say that maybe she's not Mukadeshes, but if someone else is going to come and want to be Mekadesher, so then she's not going to be mutter to the second person without a get from the first person, because maybe it was a good Kidushin, and because there was no conditions there, and what he's saying he thought in his heart, maybe is not true. So maybe that whole thing is only just a chumrah. So therefore Abaye said, I'll bring you a different source. The source is from our Mishnah that we just learned on Mem Tes Samid Beis here. So the Mishnah said, Bikulam, in all cases where the husband made a condition regarding who he is, and it turns out not to be the way he said, even if the woman comes and says, that I was ready anyways, that the Kidushin should take effect, even if the condition is not fulfilled, nevertheless, she will not be Mukadeshes. And over here, what do we see? That we're saying this is a kula. Over here, we're saying that it's a leniency that she will not be Mukadeshes. But Vamai, why should she not be Mukadeshes? Why shouldn't we think that it's possible she is Mukadeshes? Haka'amra belibi haya. She's telling us that in her heart she was thinking that she wants the Kidushin to take effect. Either way, the condition the husband made was just a plus, a bonus. Says the Gemara. So again, we're trying to prove from here, so it must be. The reason is because Dvarim shebelev einim Dvarim. Says the Gemara, V'dil mashani hasam. No, in our Mishnah it's different. The kivin dasne. Since the husband spells out a clear condition, lav kol kamine, kamino, that is, she doesn't have any belief to say the akra leila t'nai, to come and uproot a clear condition that was made. If she heard and she did not say anything about this condition, so then we know that the Kidushin is only with this condition. You can't compare this case to the case of the person that was selling a property and he didn't say anything. He was thinking that he's moving to Eretz Yisrael, and over there, Rava Paskin, that it's Dvarim Shebelev. So over there the question is, you saw that this person is preparing to move, but he didn't say it clear tonight. Should we say over there that it's Dvarim Shebelev? But over here it's different. Over here the husband came and spelled out a clear condition. He's telling his wife, the Kidushin is with this condition. And she's listening and she's accepting that. So over here, it's understood why you shouldn't accept later when she comes and says Dvarim Shebelev, opposite than the clear words that the husband told her. It's not the same thing. So the Gemara brings another source. Elam Rav Chia bar Oven of the Have bei Rav Chisda. There was such a kind of story by Rav Chisda and Rav Chisda bei Rav Huna. And Rav Chisda went to Rav Huna to ask him about this. Where is the source for this opinion of Dvarim Shabalev and Dvarim and the story that we brought before? Upashtua meha. And he brought the source from the following Mishnah. The Mishnah says regarding the halacha of Me'ilah. So now, this is the halacha of Me'ilah. Just to understand this Mishnah here, there are two details that are important. Number one, the whole Me'ilah that we're talking about here, which when you're moil, when you use monies or a valuable, whatever it is from hektish, and it's used b'shaygig, only if it was used b'shaygig, so then you pay a chaimish, and you also have to bring a carbon for this, a carbon Me'ilah, carbon asham. And that's one point here. Another point is, by Me'ilah there's a chiddush, and we learned this towards the beginning of this Perek here, even though usually there's the klal of ein shliach ledvar aveda, when you send someone else to go and do an aveda for you, so the shliach is responsible, not the sender, not the mishaleach, but by Me'ilah it's not so. By Me'ilah, when you send the shliach, the mishaleach, the one that sent him, gets the aveda, and he will have to bring the carbon. Okay, so now the Mishnah Me'ilah says, tells the shliach, bring me money that's sitting by the window or sitting in a bag somewhere. And the shliach brought it for him. And then the shliach went, in other words, he told him to go and use the money and buy something for him with this money. And so then the shliach fulfilled the shlichus, so he went and used money from hektish for something that's used moil, for something for chayil. Even if now the balabais, the mishalech that sent him, comes and says that in my heart I really was thinking something else. It shouldn't be from this bag, should be from that bag. Not from this money that's by the window, but something else. But nevertheless, since he brought him from there, from this place, he went and did what the balabas told him. He didn't deviate. Balabai is small. So over here, the halacha is that we say shluchish laden kamaisai, even though the shliach is the one that did the action, but the balabais is the one that's mile. And the case over here is, again, this is all b'shegi. The balabas didn't realize that this is money from hektish. The shliach didn't realize it's money from hektish either. So the balabas now has to bring a carbon, a sham me'ilis for this. But now the shaila is, why should the balabas have to bring a carbon? But now he's telling us, he's saying that in my heart I was thinking something else. I wanted him to take from different monies. So it was not. It's not what was in his heart. So he didn't do his shlichus. If the shliach didn't fulfill the shlichus of the mishaleach, so then you can't say that he did his shlichus in his moil. So he's saying not in his heart, he didn't want the shlichus. Elalav. So isn't the reason he told him to go there and take the money. So you can't later come and say that in my heart I was thinking it should be from somewhere else or from another bag. So that's Dvarim Shabalev. So here you see that you don't go according to what a person is thinking in his heart. So he fulfilled the shlichus, and the mishaleach will be moil. So the Gemara says, no, maybe that case is different. V'dilme shani hasam. Maybe over there it's different. The reason why we don't believe the balabas, because we have the following chashash. We're concerned that l'mifta nafshe mikarbon kasi. That over here he has a motivation to lie because he wants to pater himself from a carbon. Right? So therefore, in such a case, maybe there's a reason. There's a motivation to lie. So therefore, we can't trust the Dvarim Shabbalei. But maybe in a regular case, again, going back to the story we had before, when we see this person was making preparations to move to Eretz Yisrael, and then an Einus happened and he couldn't move to Eretz Yisrael. So maybe over there, we're not choishish that he's lying. Over there, we know he had those Dvarim in his heart. So maybe there, it is significant, and it could be mevatel the sale. So the Gemara says on this, no, your chash is that maybe this person has a motivation to lie. But if that would be the reason why he's saying this, he could easily get himself out of a carbon in a different way. He could have just simply said that I was amazed, I knew it's money from Hekdesh and I sent the shliach to do it anyways. The halach is that if it's amazed, so then you don't bring a carbon milah. So if the balabas says that he's amazed, so who brings the carbon milah? The shliach is the one that brings the carbon milah, not the balabas, because the shliach is the one that used this money of the hektish b'shegig, and the shliach was amazed. So if he wants to get himself out of a carbon, it's very simple. So this is not, we shouldn't really be concerned for that. So the Gemara says, no, a person would not say that he was amazed to get himself out of a carbon. Like Ovid inish the mashvi nafshe rishia. A person will not say that he's amazed to make himself a rasha. in this kind of scenario. There's a discussion in the Shenim about this. In other cases, we do find a person could say Mazid easy, but if here in this scenario, the person will not say that he's a Mazid if he doesn't have to, if he has an easier way to get himself out of this carbon by simply saying that the Shliach did not fulfill exactly my Shlichus. But the Gemara still asks, but there's another way that he can get himself out of a carbon. Again, the point of here is that you can't tell me that there's a chashash that he's saying over here that this is not what I told the shliach to do, this is what I had in my heart, and this is a raya, dvarim shabbalei ve'ein dvarim. Maybe over here there's a concern he's trying to get himself out of a carbon. But the Gemara says, no, if the concern is he's trying to get himself out of a carbon, then he could get himself out of a carbon in another very simple way. Hava le'loima niskarti. The balabos that sent this shliach could have just simply said, I wasn't amazed, but after I sent him, I remembered that it's money from Hektish. And once he remembers, so now the Mishaleach does not have the Me'ilah, he doesn't have to bring the carbon, the Shliach has to bring. Because the Gemara brings a source for this, the Tnan, or another gear says the Tanya, it says Nabraisa, Niska Balabayas. If after the Balabayas sends money that belongs to Hektish with a Shliach, to go and buy with it something, it's Me'ilah. V'lo niska shliach. So the Balabais remember that this is money of Hektish. V'lo niska shliach, and the shliach did not realize. So shliach mo'al. The shliach is the one that's going to be mo'al. Right? So here Rashi explains the point I mentioned before, that usually you say that the halacha is ein shliach l'dvar aveda. But Me'ilah is an exception, and by Me'ilah you say that there is a shliach l'dvar aveda. But that's only if the Mishalech is a Shegig and he is in a condition that he would have to bring the carbon. So then I say the Shliach doesn't bring the carbon, the Mishalech, which is the Shegig, brings the carbon. But if the Mishalech is amazed and the Mishalech is not bringing the carbon, then we go back to the halacha that Ein Shliach L'Dvar Aveda, and now the Shliach that did this Aveda is going to be the one that has to bring the carbon. So now here, this is the conclusion of the Inyan. Comes out over here that the Gemara explained that in this case, when he's saying Hoya Belibi, that he's telling the Shliach that in my heart I was thinking you should take different monies, not the one that you took, there's no concern that he was saying so because he wanted to pat himself from a carbon, because he has a very easy way to pat himself of a carbon. So then over here we see that when a person says Hoya Belibi, we don't believe him. Why? Because Dvarim Shabbalei Ve'ein Dvarim, even if he actually had it in his heart. The issue over here is not the fact that we don't believe him. Even if he actually was thinking it in his heart, it doesn't matter. Dvarim Shabbalei Ve'ein Dvarim. So the same thing also, this person that was planning to go to Eretz Yisrael, even if we have no reason why not to trust him, we see he was preparing to go to Eretz Yisrael, but since by the sale he didn't make it clear that he's doing this to only on the condition that he goes to Eretz Yisrael, so then Dvarim Shabbalei Ve'ein Dvarim, and the sale will be intact. You can't be mevatel the sale. So now in connection to this, the Gemara brings another two halachas, or another two similar stories. Ahu gavre, the zavninu l'nichse adayta l'meisek la'arad Yisrael. So there's a person that sold his properties with the condition of thinking that he's going to Eretz Yisrael. And over here, the case is that this person actually said clearly, he said that he's only selling because he wants to go to Eretz Yisrael. But then what happened? Solik, he ended up going to Eretz Yisrael, but v'loy istar. He didn't find a proper place to live. He couldn't get adjusted to Eretz Yisrael. So he came back to bubble. It didn't work out. So in such a case, he made a clear condition, but his condition was if he goes to Eretz Yisrael. But he ended up going, but he couldn't adjust and he came back. So is this considered like he went and the condition was fulfilled, or no? Amar Rava says, Kol de Salik, when a person says that I'm going and I'm selling only because I'm going to Eretz Yisrael, he didn't just mean that he physically went. It means that he went and he'll be able to adjust there and live there. But now that he couldn't, so then the condition wasn't fulfilled, he can go back on the sale. Well, he couldn't live there. Others say that Rava said, you have to look at what he said in his condition. And he said in his condition that I'm selling on the condition that I go to Eretz Yisrael. He went to Eretz Yisrael. So if he went, even though he couldn't adjust and he ended up coming back, it's too bad. He didn't mention that detail in his condition, and therefore the sale remains in effect. Another story the Gemara says, a person sold his properties and because he's going to Eretz Yisrael, and he made it clear it's only because he's going to Eretz Yisrael. But then, in the end, he didn't go. Now, this is different than the story before, in that we had all in the beginning of the sugya here, Ahu Gavre. Over there, what happened was, a oinus happened. Something out of the person's control that stopped him from going. Over here, no einus. There was nothing stopping him from going. But he just decided, he changed his mind that he's not going to Eretz Yisrael. Amar Rav Ashi, so Rav Ashi says, Iboy Salik. He can go to Eretz Yisrael. Nobody is stopping him to go to Eretz Yisrael. So therefore, you can't be mevatel the sale. The condition over here was that if I'm able to go to Eretz Yisrael, and he's able to go, the fact that he now chooses not to go is not enough grounds to be able to undo the sale. Ikadamri, there are others that say that when Rav Ashi said this psak din, he said it in a different expression. He said it with a wonder. Iboy loy salik. Is there anybody stopping him from going? So since there's nobody stopping him from going, so therefore the sale remains in effect. So the Gemara explains what's the difference between these two versions of how Rav Ashi said his psak din. Did he just say Iboy salik, or did he say it with a wonder? The difference is this yalid einse be'orche. If there is some kind of difficulty, there's some kind of einus on the way to travel to Eretz Yisrael, there are thieves on the way, there's other problems that could be along the way to go to Eretz Yisrael. So according to the first version that it said Iboy Salik, so over here he still could go. He just would have to work harder to go, that's all. He would have to just find the caravan and protect himself and go, but he still could go. It's not like a real einus that's mamish stopping him of going. So therefore, what Rav Ashi said, he could go, he still physically could go. But according to the second version, that Rav Ashi was like wondering, is there anybody stopping him? In such a case where there's a difficulty to go, that would be enough of an einus that, there is something that made it difficult to go. So therefore, the sale now will be bottled, because it's hard for him to go to Eretz Yisrael. A person says to a shliach, say v'kadosh li isha plainis, go and be mekadosh to me this woman, b'mokim plaini, that's in this place. V'holach, and this shliach went v'kitsha b'mokim acher, and he was mekadosh her in a different place. She's not mekadeshes, because when he says b'mokim plaini in this language, it's clear that he wants only there, as we'll see soon in the Gemara, and Rashi brings it right away, that he knows that in this place where this woman is, he has friends there, people will speak nice about him, and therefore this wife that will now be mekadeshes to him will be happy that she got mekadeshes to him, but she doesn't want it in a different place where he knows people might be saying bad things about him. But if the language that the Mishaleach, this man, said was different, he says, go be mekadosh to me this woman, and then he adds, Harei hi b'mokim pleni. She is now in this place. The kitchen b'mokim acher. He was mekadosh her somewhere else. Harei is a mekadosh. So then if he was mekadosh in a different place, she's still mekadosh, because from his language it's clear. He's just telling him that is the shliach, where she is right now. But he's not particular about that place. So the Gemara, Tanan Nabi.
You're leaving too.
He what? Well, he thought that she's there. He didn't realize. He thought she's in one place, and it turns out she's somewhere else. Tananami Gabi Gabi Gitin. We learned the same exact halacha. Mishnah with all the same details by a get. A person says to Shliach, Tnu gets a lishti b'makom pleni. Give this get to my wife, and he says l'chatchila right away that she is b'makom pleni, or which is b'makom pleni. V'nasni la b'makom acher. And the shliach gave the get to the isha in a different place, possible, the get is possible. Over here he said, b'makom pleni, dafke in this place. But if he said, give the get to my wife, and then he added, harehi b'makom pleni, she's right now over here in this place. Then v'nasni la b'makom acher, gave it to somewhere else, kasha, the get is kasha. So why is the Mishnah repeating the same halacha for Kidushin and for Gedushin? So the Gemara explains, it's necessary to repeat the same halacha twice. The Yeshmin and Gabi Kidushin, if we would say regarding Kidushin, this halacha, that if it was Mekadesher, he told her to go to be Mekadesher in one place. And then he was Mekadesh in a different place, that she would not be Mekadeshes. The reason is, by Kidushin b'mokim de l'kurva kasi, over here he's come close to her. He wants to marry her. So so this person knows in this place people love me and they'll speak positive about me. They're not going to fill their mouth. They're not going to say things against me. So therefore he was medayik. He wants him to be mekadosh isha dafke in that place. But in another place people hate me. They're going to say things against me, and then this woman will be upset that she got married to me. So he was makbid dafke in this place and not in another place. That's by Kiddushin. When it comes to a get, the little chukakasi, he's coming to send her away. It doesn't make a difference where this happens, in one place or in another place. That's why I have to say the halacha by gittin. On the other hand, via shmin and gabe gedushin, if we would say this halacha only by gedushin, so maybe I would say b'hai asre nichalei dinivzi. When a person gives a get, it's an embarrassing thing that he's divorcing his wife. So maybe over here, Adarabah, by a get, he's very particular where the person, the shliach, will give the get for his wife. In this place, he doesn't mind it; he gets the embarrassment. But in a different place, it doesn't. It does matter to him that he's getting embarrassed there. So that's by a get, where there's an embarrassment. But regarding a Kidushin, maybe we should say that it doesn't matter to him. So therefore, the Mishnah has to say both of these cases here, or has to say the Mishnah here and the Mishnah in Masechta Gittin, that to say that the halacha is the same in both cases. So Mishnah, Mekadesh Isha, person's Mekadesh, a woman, Nedarim, with the condition that there's no Nedarim. She didn't take upon herself any Nedarim that will limit things that she can do and so on. It turns out that she has Nedarim upon herself. So the condition is not fulfilled and she's not Mekadeshes. If a man marries his wife, and this is the second stage of marriage, he brings her into his home and to marry her completely now, to live with her, and he didn't say anything, he didn't specify that if you do a condition, you don't have Nedarim, but now Nedarim. It turns out that she has Nedarim that she made that the husband has a difficult time living with. So the husband can come and say that even if he didn't make this condition, he could say, I can't live with a woman that has these kind of nedarim, and therefore teitzei shaloi b'ksuba. She could leave, he could divorce her, and he doesn't have to even give her a ksuba. Similar then, a person marries a woman on condition that she has no blemishes. It turns out she does have blemishes. She's not mukadeshes. Now, he brings her into his home and he's fully married to her and he didn't say anything. But it turns out she has mumen and the husband says, I can't live with a woman that has these mumen. She leaves, he divorces her and he doesn't have to give her any ksuba. Now the Mishnah adds, Shakal, or the other gears here is Kol hamumin hapaislim b'kayinim. All mumin that we find regarding the Aveda of a kayin, the Beis Hamikdash is pasel the kayin, paislim b'nashim, they pasel a woman as well, meaning that over here by a woman as well, the husband can say, I can't live with this woman, and he can give her a get, and he doesn't have to give her a ksuba.
Even comes to stam.
Yeah, right, that's Chiddush, even stam. Says the Gemara, Utana nabi gabi ksubis kehai gavna. The exact same Mishnah, word for word, you have also in Masechta Ksubis. So why is it repeating the same Mishnah twice? It says the Gemara, Hacha Kidushin itzrichalei. Over here, the Mishnah is being brought mainly for the first halacha regarding the condition regarding the Kidushin. So Tana Ksubis, not the Kidushin, also brings the second halacha regarding Ksubis, once it brings the first halacha regarding Kidushin. Hasam Ksubis itzrichalei. In Masechta Ksubis, it's teaching it mainly for the second halacha regarding the Ksubah. Tana Kidushin, not the Ksubis. So says the halacha of Kidushin also together with the Ksubah. And even though over there it's teaching it mainly regarding Ksubah, but it still said Kiddushin first, because that's the stages of marriage. First comes Kiddushin, and then comes the Ksubah, then comes the full marriage and the issue of the Ksubah. Person was Makadesh, two women with one Shava Pruta. So they both can't be Mukadeshes, because it's only a half a Pruta for each one. Oy Isha Achas, he was Makadesh of one woman, Bepachas Meshava Pruta, with less than a Shava Pruta. So then, Afal Pi Sheshalach Sevloinis Lachamikan, even if he sent to her gifts later on, and this is the derech that the chassan sends gifts to the kala, and he sent her gifts later on, Eina Mukadeshes, she will not be Mukadeshes. Meaning, we're not going to say that maybe the gifts that he sent later on, he sent them l'shem Kiddushin. It's because he knows that what he gave her before, less than a Shava Pruta, is not Kiddushin. We're not going to say that. We're going to say that he probably thought that what he gave her before is a Kiddushin, and therefore the gift that he's sending her now is not l'shem Kiddushin, so therefore she will not be Mukadeshes. Here, as the Mishnah spells out, Shemachmas Kiddushin Arishainim Shalach. He only sent these Sivlainis now, these gifts, because he thought that the Kiddushin before was a Kiddushin. So the Kiddushin before is not a Kiddushin, and the gifts that he sent now is not l'shem Kiddushin, so she's not Mukadeshes. V'chein cotton shekiddish. The same halacha is also regarding a cotton that's mekadesh a woman. Now, a cotton cannot be mekadesh a woman, so he gave her money for kiddushin, and it did not take effect. And then when this cotton turns a gadol, he sends her gifts. So we're not going to say that he sends her the gifts now for kiddushin. He thinks that he's relying on the kiddushin when he was a cotton. So we have over here three cases in the Mishnah where the husband first is mekadesh isha, and the kiddushin originally did not take effect, and later he sends gifts, and the Mishnah is saying that in all three cases, the gifts that he sent later will not be a Kiddushin. So the Gemara here explains why the Mishnah has to say all these three cases. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't make a difference if she's over here. The issue is not whether she agrees or not. The issue is that there's no Kiddushin there. It didn't give her a Shava Pruta, and the Savlainis is not L'Shem Kiddushin.
had one time we came over before. I even less than put it, but she's like.
No, the Gemara actually said that in a case where it's less than a shava pruta, the Gemara said that there's a havamina that if she's having hana right away, the etza hana, she should be mukadeshes. But the Gemara says that no, she's not mukadeshes. There is also another Gemara we had before. If he's makadesh with something which is less than a shava pruta, the Gemara gave an example of tamar less than a shava pruta. Chayshinan shem a shava pruta b'madai. There's a safek Kidushin because maybe there's a place in the world where this is worth a shava pruta, but it's for sure not a vade Kidushin. So we have to have all three cases here. The Yashmin and Shava Pruta, if we would say the first case, where he was Mekadesh two women with a Shava Pruta, Aidi the Kanofik Memayne Mine, because he gave a full Pruta out of his possession, even though he gave it for two women, so toy, maybe that would be the source of the mistake. That's why he's thinking that these women are already Mekadeshes to him. And therefore, when he sends the gifts later, it's not L'Shem Kedushin. But if he's Mekadesh one woman with less than a Shava Pruta, in such a case, I would say, maybe this person knows, we should say he knows that there's no Kidushin with less than a Shava Pruta, so in such a case, when he's sending her gifts, over here, maybe he is sending the gifts for Kidushin because he knows that the first Kidushin didn't take effect. Further, if the Mishnah would say these two cases, I would say mishum the bein pruta lepachas mishava pruta, that the difference between the value of a pruta or less than a pruta could be a tiny difference. Like Kim Lula and she, the people don't know this and make a mistake to know if she's mekadeshes or not. Could be he doesn't even see the value of it and he doesn't realize the difference. But by the last case of the Mishnah, the third case, when it's a cotton that was mekadesh a woman, everybody knows that the kedushin of a cotton, he has no das, he can't be mekadesh isha, there's nothing. So over here I would say that ki kamishadis of loines, when he's sending her gifts, adai to the kedushin kamishadar, that he's sending it for the purpose of kedushin. That's why the Mishnah is saying that no, even in such a case, when he sends gifts, gifts are being sent just as gifts, and it's not for Kiddushin. Now, in connection to this, the Gemara brings a different case where they argued about these gifts that a chassan sends to the kala. So we learned the following machlekes. Ravuna says chosheshin l'sivloinus. We are concerned that sivloinus could be a Kiddushin. Now, this is a different case here. As Rashi says, the case over here is by a woman that was engaged. There was a shidduch, she was already engaged, and she agreed to get married to him. But before he was mekadesh her, before he gave her a ring, before Kiddushin, he went and sent her gifts with Eidim. So over here he says he sent her gifts, were chayshish, that maybe these gifts itself would be a Kiddushin. So over here it's talking about the gifts before a Kiddushin. So he says v'chayshish. V'chein amar Rabbe, chayshish and l'savloinus. Rabbe also says v'chayshish. Amar Rabbe, so Rabbe said about the halacha that he said, u'meisvinon ashmaitin, and I asked the question from the Mishnah that we just learned, that it's from the Mishnah we see l'chayre that sivloinus is not anything to be concerned about, that it was sent for the purpose of Kiddushin. Because the Mishnah says, now the case of the Mishnah was a bit different. In the case of the Mishnah, he first tried to be Mekadesh the Isha in a way that the Kiddushin didn't take effect, and then he sent the Sivloinus. And the Mishnah says, Aval B'Sheshalach Sivloinus, the gift that he sent later, L'Acha Mikan, Eina Mekadeshes. So we see over here that we're not chayshish that the Sivloinus are a Kiddushin. So why are we saying that when there's a Shidduch and he sends Sivloinus before a Kiddushin, that we should be chayshish? Amalei Abaye says it's not the same thing. Hasam Kidiktani Taima. In the Mishnah gives a reason. Shamachmas Kidushin Harishainim Shalach. That he thought that the Kidushin Harishainim already took effect. That's why the Sivloinus have nothing to do with Kiddushin. But when it comes to a person that sends Sivloinus after a Shidduch, and there was no Kiddushin at all before, over here we have to be chayshish that maybe these Sivloinus that he's sending her before the Kiddushin should be, maybe they are inyan of Kiddushin. That's one version of what Rabbi said regarding our Mishnah. Ikidamri. Now there's another version. Amar Rabbi said, Mino, Aminullah. Rabbi brought a raya from our Mishnah to his halacha. That kediktani taime, that when it comes to our Mishnah, and the Mishnah says when the man sends sivloinus to the woman, that we're not chayshish. In the Mishnah, it's only because of the case there, because of the reason that it says shemachmas kiddushin arishainim shalach. Because he already was Mekadesher before, or he thought he was Mekadesher before, with less than a prute. So therefore now, he's sending it because he thought she's already Mekadeshes. That's why there's a flainess of nothing. But hacha hudetoi. So again, it goes together with before. Hacha hudetoi. So in our Mishnah, he's making that mistake, thinking that she was already Mekadeshes from before. Ha ba'alme, but in another case, which is what Rabbi is speaking about over here, when he sends her the sivloinus without any Kidushin before, have a Kidushin. In this case, maybe we should be chayshish that he's sending it for the purpose of Kiddushin. So that was his raya. But Abaye again, and according to this version, argued on Rabba and said there's no raya from a Mishnah. Because I can tell you the svara is the opposite. Loi mibaye kalmar. The Mishnah over here is saying a bigger chiddush. Loi mibaye, needless to say, ba'alma, in a case where a man just sends gifts to a kala without any Kiddushin, there's just a shidduch. The loy nachas l'teiris Kiddushin klal. There was no Kiddushin yet at all. So in such a case, definitely just sending gifts where there was no Kiddushin at all. So we're not chayshish that there should be any Kiddushin with these gifts. Over here we see that he already is thinking about Kiddushin. He's already ready to marry her. So in such a case, Kiddushin, maybe over here, since he already wants to marry her, and maybe now he realized the mistake that he made, that the money he gave you before was not a Shavapruta, and what he sent her, the Savlainis, should be a Kiddushin. Kamash Malon, so what our Mishnah is saying is even a bigger Kiddush, that the Savlainis is not a Kiddushin. So there's no raya from our Mishnah. So the Gemara says, "My havi Allah." What's the actual halacha about this? When a chassan sends to a kala after a shidduch of loinis, there are edim there. Are we chayshish that this was for kiddushin? Rav Papa said as follows: Ba'asre the mekachi v'hada misavli, in a place where the minig is that first you mekadosh the woman and only later you send gifts. Chayshina. So in such a case, we're chayshish that if he sent gifts before the kiddushin, then maybe he means the gifts should be for the kiddushin. Because that's the minig in this place, that first they make a Kiddushin. But misavli, v'hada mekachi, but if it's a place that they send gifts first, and even after the engagement, they send already gifts, the chassan sends, and only later is the Kiddushin, so lechashinan. We don't have to be chayshish that the gifts that he sent for is for a Kiddushin, because the minig is to send gifts before. Now the Gemara asks him this, I would have Papa taught here, mekachi v'hada misavli, if it's a case where you send where you first do the Kiddushin, and then you send gifts. So in such a case, our Papa said you have to be chayshish that the gifts that he sent now before is for Kiddushin, pshita. That's obvious that you have to be chayshish. That's the minig over here, that first you're mekadosh. So the Gemara explains that what Rav Papa meant was that the chiddush is even more. Lo tzrich, the chiddush over here is in the following case. The ruba mekachi v'hada misavli. Yet most people will first be mekadosh and only then will send the gifts. But umiyuta misavli v'hada mekachi. But there are people that first send gifts right after the engagement, even before the kiddushin. So So maybe I would say, if I see this person sending gifts, he's doing different than most people. We see he's sending gifts before a kiddushin, so he's probably from that minority that is sending gifts. And it's no reason to be chayshish for the kiddushin. There is a minority that does this. Kamash Malan, so therefore he's saying that no, since the majority of people are Mekadosh before they send gifts, so in such a case you're going to have to be chayshish that he's not the minority, but he's doing like the Raiv and he's sending her the gifts for a Kiddushin. So then, I think the Rebbe wrote in letters that told people to be careful when a chassan gives a kala a gift. You shouldn't give a ring, you shouldn't give things that should be similar to, shouldn't look like a Kiddushin. You give other gifts that are not anything similar to a Kiddushin. It should be clear it's not for the das of Kiddushin because of the sugi here. Right. Could be the ring with the diamond ring, yeah. Sagt the Gemara, boy minei Ravacha bar Avhuna me Rava. Ravacha bar Avhuna asked from Rava a similar kind of shaila, Hochsak stark subbe b'shuk. What happens if you find a stark subbe in the marketplace? You see it's a stark subbe that says the subbe between this man and a woman. So mahu. What does this mean? Is that a raya that she was married to him? What happens if she wants to go and get married to someone else? Are we going to tell her you have to get a get from this individual because we see that there's a stark subbe and therefore that itself is a raya that she was married to him? Amalei, so Rav said, why would this stark sub itself prove anything? Just because we see this stark sub in the street, that should be enough of a reason to say that she has a status of a neshes ish, that she has to get a get from the first husband? That's not enough of a basis for this. Ma'avi Allah. So the Gemara says, what's the halacha about this shaila? Ravashi says, similar to what we said before, it depends. Ba'asa the mekachi, v'hada kasfik soba. In a place where the minig is, at first you mekadesh the woman, first stage of marriage, and only afterwards you write a ksubah. So then chayshinan. Then when we see a ksubah that was between this man and this woman, so the minig is that the Kidushin was done before already, so we're concerned that they were married. Kasti v'hada mekachi, but if it's a place that they first write the ksubah, they prepare it before, and then all afterwards is the Kidushin, so then like chayshinan. The fact that we see this ksubah written, we're not chayshish for it. So now again, the Gemara over here clarifies what Ravashi was coming to say here. What was his chiddush? Mekachi v'hada kosvi, in a place where first people are mekadesh the woman and then they write the ksubah. Pshita, obviously in such a case, when you see a ksubah, you have to be concerned. It's more than a concern. It's clear that he already married her. What was the chiddush here? So the Gemara says, the chiddush is deloi shchiach safra, that this is a place, this is a city that a sefer to write a ksubah is not very easy to come by. So Mao the Tema, I would maybe think, Safruhu de Isrami, that even though the minig over here is that people are Makadesh first, but because it's not easy to find a Sefer, but over here when we see this Ksubah, maybe what happened was, they found a Sefer even before the Kidushin, so they chapped Arayin and wrote the Ksubah even before, but there was no marriage. You don't have any Eidim, you don't have any Raya that she's an Eshes Ish, so I should be makel for this. Kamash Malan, therefore, that's what he was saying, that even in such a case, we're Chayshish for the Kidushin, since the minig is the first be Makadesh. A person that was mekadesh a woman with a daughter, two together. It says you can't be married to a mother and a daughter, but he was mekadesh both of them together. Or a woman and a sister, kachas together. The Kidushin does not take effect, and the point here is that it doesn't take effect even for one of them. None of them will have to need a get. Obviously, both of them are not mekadeshes, but not even one of them need a get. There was an incident, there were 5 women, amongst them there were 2 sisters, a person collected a basket of figs, belonged to these women, and this was also fruits from Shemitah. The Gemara is going to explain what the significance of this is. And he said, all of you are married to me with this basket of figs. One of them accepted this basket, this for Kedushin, for all of them, shlichus all of them. The Chachamim said, Ein achoyes mekudashis. The sisters here are not mekudashis, as the lahalacha of the Reish of the Mishnah. Okay, the details of the story will be explained later on in the Gemara. But the Gemara starts off with explaining what's the pshat in the beginning of the Mishnah. Why, if you mekadesh sisters, is even one not mekudashis? We know immediately what's the source for this. Because the pasuk says by the erva of a sister, that you can't marry sisters. You shouldn't marry a sister once you're married to one sister. You don't marry the other. What is this pasuk saying? What the Torah is saying is that in a time that if you're marrying them both together and they're both becoming co-wives to one another, that the Kidushin will not take effect, even not by one of them. That's what the pasuk is speaking about. This pasuk is speaking about not where you already married one sister, and now it's saying that to marry another sister, to have a relation with a sister, will be an erva. What it's saying is, when he marries them both at the same time, the Kidushin does not take effect for either of them. So Rav asked on this, if that's what the pasuk is saying, then the pasuk says that if you have a relation with a sister, so you get kadis, if the taich of the pasuk is, it's speaking about this specific case, where he was mekadesh 2 sisters, and therefore the Kidushin for none of them takes effect. So how could the pasuk then say that if he has a relation with a sister that he would be chayiv kadis? It's not a sister of his wife. No Kidushin took effect. That the pasuk here is speaking about a case where he was mekadesh both of them together, and so none of them are his wives. So there's no erva of a sister of your wife. Says the Gemara, and there's no Kidushin that took effect for the sister b'chlal. It could be it's Tam's Nus, but it's not a Karis for a sister, if that's what the pasuk is speaking about. So therefore Rava says, what the pasuk is speaking about is that he married a wife, and then later he had another sister, he wants to marry a sister, and he has a relation with a sister, so then you'd be chayiv Karis, because the Kidushin for the first sister did take effect. Now there's the Yisur of Erva. Now, so in our Mishnah, what's the source on our Mishnah where it says that you mekadesh 2 sisters together, that the Kidushin does not take effect? Umasnisen, the halacha of our Mishnah is based on what the rule that Rabbi said, Kiderabbe. Rabbi said the following point, and this is a svara, this is not based on a pasik. Kol she'enoi b'zeh achazeh, anytime the Torah says that if you do something one after the other, it can't take effect. Like over here, if you once you mekadesh one woman and then you can't be mekadesh the sister, it does not take effect. Afilu b'vas achas einoi. Even if you want to be mekadesh them at the very same time, it's going to be the same, like one after the other, and the Kidushin does not take effect for either one of them. So it's a svara. It's not that's what we learn out here from this pasuk, and then this svara that Rabbi said. Okay, there's a hemshcha sugya. This is going to be all to discuss and bring a source and questions on this rule that Rabbi said over here about this.